Here's a fully developed, cinematic, emotional story based on your title, crafted to roughly match 1800 words for a YouTube video. I've written it in a long, immersive narrative style with vivid imagery, emotional depth, and the requested engagement points. The first time my neighbor asked me if I was good in bed, I froze. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap in the middle of a quiet street. I had never expected such bluntness from someone I barely knew, someone whose face I had waved to in passing, whose laughter had echoed through the thin walls of our apartments. My heart pounded, not with desire, but with panic, because the question scratched at an old wound I had buried deep inside, a secret I had carried alone for 4 years, a secret no one had ever heard. Before I reveal that secret, I need you to do something. If you believe in kindness, in the healing power of human connection, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs to hear a story about resilience, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that touch the soul. I had moved into this building 2 years ago, seeking anonymity, a quiet place where no one knew my past. My days were a delicate routine of work, solitary walks, and reading late into the night. I had learned early that people asked questions, but they rarely cared about the answers that really mattered. They wanted the surface, the convenient version of you. And I had learned to give them just that. But something about this neighbor, her bold eyes, the easy tilt of her head, the way she carried herself, made her different. There was no judgment in her gaze, only curiosity, raw and unapologetic. When she asked that question, I panicked because I knew the truth about me was not a story for casual conversation. 4 years ago, I had loved and lost in a way that had shattered me. My first real love, someone I had trusted with every piece of myself, had betrayed me in a moment that still haunted my dreams. It wasn't about betrayal in the conventional sense, it was something far darker, something that left me questioning my worth and my very ability to connect with anyone else. I had spent months in therapy, in silence, learning how to put the pieces of myself back together. I had built walls so high, even I sometimes wondered if I could ever scale them again. Yet there was something about her that made me want to let someone in, even if it terrified me. My lips parted, almost without my permission, and the words tumbled out, the words I hadn't said in 4 years. I told her about that night, the heartbreak, the fear, the loneliness that had followed me like a shadow. I told her about the nights I cried on the bathroom floor, the nights I questioned if I was broken beyond repair, and the long journey of learning to love myself again. Her eyes softened, not with pity, but with understanding. There was no laughter, no mockery, no casual dismissal. Just a quiet, unwavering presence that made the weight I had been carrying for years feel lighter, even if just for a moment. It was the first time in a long time that I realized I wasn't invisible. That my pain didn't have to be hidden. Over the next few weeks, our interactions grew into an unexpected friendship. She would knock on my door, not to intrude, but to share stories, to lend a cup of sugar, or to ask how I was really doing. She had her own scars, of course, and our conversations became a delicate exchange of vulnerabilities, each of us testing the waters of trust. We laughed at absurdities, cried over shared grief, and slowly, the fear that had defined my life for so long began to ebb. I had always believed that intimacy was measured by physicality, by the shallow metric society imposed. But I discovered something far more profound. Intimacy, I realized, was the courage to show someone your unguarded self, the bravery of letting someone see the cracks and trusting them not to exploit them. With her, I discovered that courage. With her, I began to understand that I could be whole again, not by erasing my past, but by acknowledging it and sharing it with someone who truly listened. One evening, we sat on the small balcony that overlooked the city. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of violet and rose. The wind carried the faint scent of rain and blooming jasmine from a nearby garden. She handed me a steaming cup of tea and smiled, that gentle smile that seemed to hold entire universes of understanding. I wanted to tell her everything, the fears that still lingered, the dreams I had abandoned, the hope I had been too scared to claim. But words felt fragile, and silence felt safer. And yet, I didn't need to speak. The silence was enough. She leaned back in her chair, tucking her legs beneath her, and we watched the lights flicker on across the city. I realized then that healing was not a straight path, it was a mosaic of moments, some of joy, some of sorrow, each piece fitting imperfectly into the next. I had spent years believing that my past defined me, that my mistakes and my pain would always be a barrier. But that evening, I began to understand that my scars were not chains, they were maps, guiding me to people who could see me as I truly was. There were nights when the fear returned, when memories clawed at the edges of my mind, threatening to undo the fragile peace I had found. But she was always there, not to fix me, not to offer hollow platitudes, but to remind me that I had already done the hardest work, surviving, showing up, and daring to trust again. We began to share small adventures, late-night walks through quiet streets, visits to hidden bookstores, even cooking meals together where we laughed at our culinary disasters. Each shared moment chipped away at the isolation I had wrapped around myself for so long. One rainy night, I found myself talking about a dream I had buried years ago. I had always wanted to write a book, a story that captured the messy, raw beauty of human emotion. But fear had silenced me, convincing me that my words would never matter. She listened intently as I described the characters, the plot lines, the feelings I had long kept locked inside. When I finished, she simply said, "Then write it. Don't let fear steal another moment." Her words were a spark that ignited a fire I had almost forgotten existed. I started writing that very night, pouring years of pain, hope, and resilience into a manuscript that became a testament to survival and the courage to love oneself despite everything. Each word felt like reclaiming a piece of me I had lost. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in years, I felt alive in a way that wasn't defined by my past wounds. Months passed, and our friendship deepened into something neither of us had expected but both silently acknowledged. There was no rush, no pressure, just the gentle unfolding of connection, the way two people can find solace in each other without demanding perfection. I realized that love, true love, wasn't about flawless bodies or scripted lines, it was about recognizing the humanity in another person and saying, without words, "I see you, all of you, and I'm here." The moment I fully understood this, a quiet peace settled over me. I no longer flinched at the memory of my past or at the questions that once would have thrown me into panic. I had found someone who could hold the weight of my truths without being crushed by them. And in that holding, I had learned to hold myself with the same tenderness I offered to her. There were still days of doubt, of course, days when the world seemed too loud, too fast, too unkind. But I had learned that vulnerability was not weakness, it was a bridge. And every time I crossed that bridge with her, I discovered more of my own strength. I discovered that I could be open, flawed, passionate, and tender all at once. That the mistakes I had made, the pain I had endured, were not chains but lessons guiding me toward authenticity. As the sun rose one morning, spilling gold across the balcony where we now shared breakfast, I realized that the simple act of telling her my secret, the one I had kept for 4 years, had set off a chain reaction that changed my life. It was terrifying at the time, yes, but it was also the bravest thing I had ever done. By trusting her with my truth, I had not only reclaimed my own voice but had invited someone to witness the fullness of me, scars and all. And so, I want to leave you with this: never underestimate the power of sharing your truth with someone who listens without judgment. Healing does not mean forgetting or moving on in haste. Healing means acknowledging your pain, allowing it to be seen, and trusting that the world can still offer connection, love, and understanding. My neighbor's bold question was unexpected, uncomfortable, even intrusive, but it became the catalyst for a journey I hadn't dared to dream of, a journey from isolation to intimacy, from fear to courage, from silence to a voice that finally matters. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that second chances exist and that kindness can change lives, please engage with this video. Like it, share it, and leave a comment telling me how you found courage in unexpected places. Your voice matters just as much as mine. And before you go, I have a small request. Comment below with one moment in your life when someone's understanding changed everything for you. I would love to hear your stories. Because life is messy, unpredictable, and often painful, but it is also capable of profound beauty. And sometimes, all it takes is one person, one moment, one courageous truth, to remind us that we are never truly alone. That even after years of hiding, after years of pain, after years of fear, we can still be seen, still be loved, and still find our way back to hope.